Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Hola, bon dia. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show on the Sunday, 8th of February 2026. The rain hopefully is continuing to run off, and it's the presidential runoff today. Perhaps the strange, odd picture behind me, you might be wondering if I've shrunk, like honey, I've shrunk the kids, or become one of the borrowers foraging around in my back garden. It is my back garden, and it just, as I was coming out of my shed this morning, not that I'd slept there overnight, I promise you, as I was coming out of the shed this morning, I noticed in among the absolutely battered vegetation was this beautiful peace lily. You can see the wall next to it is a bit grubby on account of constant rain and a lack of sunshine, bleaching the normally white bleach painted walls, or bleached white painted walls. And there, in a place that has been subject to wind and rain and cold, is a beautiful peace lily, slightly spattered and a little bit discolored, but I mean, incredible, miraculous. It would, to me anyway, this sign of hope and peace and joy right there in the back garden, in among the absolutely challenging conditions that we've been very lucky here to have not experienced in any way, that some people have around the country, and who are still clearing up from that terrible devastation. But a lovely sign of hope and peace sharing with you this morning as we take a look to see who in our community needs any help, connect with each other as we continue our unusual weekend broadcasting, live streaming, just to check in. We don't need to be here very long, just to make sure everybody's okay, and to catch up with the news of what's going on in Portugal. And it's a special day in the Portuguese calendar. If you go over to the Portugal Club in our diary there, you will see that it is the presidential runoffs all day today. And we'll take a look, as we've been doing with Safe Communities Portugal, their excellent coverage, a situation report from them published less than an hour ago. But yeah, you see we have a calendar over there, and the important day today, the presidential runoffs. It's a quite an irony, a cosmic bit of humor there, that as the rain is running off, so there is a presidential runoff as well to decide between the two final contenders, Senor Seguros y Ventura. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, about what the either one result or the other will bring. I think it is, I don't know enough about Portuguese constitutional politics and the setup. I think the only outcome today, unless there are some really extraordinary circumstances, would be one or the other. I mean, you can't tie the role of the president, can you? Well, I wonder what would happen. I don't know. I'll leave that to people who know about such things rather than me speculating on them. But yeah, I'm imagining by the end of today, notwithstanding some cancellations of ballots, of votes around the country, we'll have a pretty good idea who the next president's going to be of Portugal for the next 5-year term, which is, I believe, is what it is. And often Portuguese presidents have two of those. If you look back at the history of Portuguese presidents, in recent times anyway, most of them seem to have a double term. Good morning to you, Alfie Hyde, a lovely new member here supporting us over on YouTube. Thanks very much. Much appreciated there, Alfie Hyde. Thank you very much on YouTube there, showing a bit of love and sharing a bit of cash. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And probably our longest standing supporter on YouTube. I think you were first off the mark there back in the day there, T-Duck. Thank you very much. Many months of support on YouTube, so thank you so much as well. Bon dia, Gumpus, the message from you. No rain forecast in Lisbon until this afternoon, so do let me know how it's going in your part of the country. And if you're abroad, if you want to know what's happening in your part of the country, this might be a good place to find out. We'll do our best to find out for you. If you have a Portuguese home or you visit on a regular basis and you want to know what's going on, do ask here. Or you'll have probably found out by now, to be fair. Let us know what's happening in your part of Portugal. And yeah, like in the old forums and message boards back in the day, we don't need your age, gender, and location, but your name and location and what it's like. I don't know what the acronym is for that, but a little bit of a check-in situation report on a personal level. Really helpful at the moment as we connect and make sure everyone's okay around Portugal. Bon dia, everyone. Safely back home. Fantastic. Well done, Mike. I think it was just part of your family traveling, wasn't it? But thank you so much for checking in. And what's it like being safely? What was it like to fly into Portugal? What was the atmosphere and the mood as you came back into Portugal? Yeah, sorry for the late start as well. I was just asking for a couple of minutes because actually what I wanted to do was show a Portuguese TV screen as well in the corner of what we're doing. And it's not an easy thing to get a little bit of Portuguese TV on the internet without having to go through many hoops. RTP1, fairly straightforward and probably the most reliable source and least commercial, I suspect, to go to. And I'll leave this on the screen from time to time as well. RTP1, their live transmission at the moment, which will probably include a few images of what's going on with the aftermath of Kristen Leonardo and most recently Marta Niels, I think, to follow, Nils, but a few pictures from voting stations. Voting will go ahead today for the Portuguese president. And good morning from Jacqueline as well. Nice to be able to connect you with Andrew as well. Hope that all worked out. Does Portugal use Dominion voting machines? I don't know. Grok says no, Portugal uses traditional paper-based ballots. Yes, I'm not able to vote in this one, but I voted in my local election. And yes, very traditional. Huge bit of paper with lots of candidates on. Yeah, very traditional, very old-fashioned polling booth. James Duck quackened, not stirred. Okay, so you cope pretty well with Marta in the capital by the sound of it this morning. Thanks, T Duck, for that report. Let's go straight then to Safe Communities Portugal and share with you their coverage, their situation report for this morning. Is that the one? No, that's the one. Actually, I had some birthdays open as well. How do I get rid of that on the? Yeah, that's how I get rid of that. Some very quickly then some birthday celebrations in the community here. Happy birthday to you, Portugalish Andrew of the Man Cave, of course. 53 today. Don't look a day over 52, mate. Portugalish Andrew, only kidding. You look great. Happy birthday to you, Portugalish Andrew. Adele Franco, Elaine Godley. Thank you very much for allowing me to post my work with Dr. John Briffer on your group as well, Elaine. Happy birthday to you, Elaine Godley. And do you remember Phil, the Canadian? Phil Sylvain. Happy birthday to you, Sylvain, Senor Sylvain. Remembering the days when we used to talk together with your stories of Portuguese history that I think you created specifically for your son, who would be visiting Portugal, and you shared them, and we talked through Portuguese history with you. Canadian Phil, who last I saw was in the Silver Coast area. Let me have a quick cough. There we go. That's better. I think it's all this damp weather, quite frankly. But if you heard that, you'd have probably thought to yourself, "Well, that's on the way out. That's good." Yeah. Let's not dwell on that. Let's go to Safe Communities Portugal. Happy birthday to you, or parabéns a vocês. All right, over at Safe Communities Portugal, we'll swing back round to this just to quickly let you know, the total number of registered voters in the polling stations that are closed today is 36,852. So I don't know how much of an impact that will have and how that's going to be managed with closed polling stations. We'll come back to that. We're going to tell you first and foremost, of course, about the situation report here. Thanks to you, Safe Communities Portugal. Situation report at 9 o'clock. So over an hour ago, but this morning's report anyway for the 8th of February 2026. Overall then, civil protection recorded a total of 150 incidents at around 3:30 a.m. today. All emergency services doing sterling work, the military, civil protection, the police, the various police forces, and the Bombeiros, of course, all working together. Forgive me if I've missed your profession or input on the situation here, but Portugal's amazing. Authorities and support services all working together, reporting a total of 150 incidents at around 3:30 this morning, mainly affecting the central and Lisbon and Tejo Valley regions. So that emphasis has shifted from Leiria and the situations of calamity, states of calamity in those districts, to include central and Lisbon, Tejo Valley regions. Let me hasten to add, in terms of incidents, not necessarily state of calamity. According to the website of the National Emergency and Civil Protection Authority, ANEPC, 977 personnel and 336 land-based resources were deployed. Thank you, each and every one of you. And very sad to see the loss of a Bomberos officer yesterday in the line of duty. At this moment, the biggest problem, according to the ANEPC commander, Mario Silvestre, is not so much the rain itself. He's a presidential candidate for the future, for sure. But the impact that the rain on hydrological conditions, asking the population to reinforce their precautions. Let's not get too complacent now. Reinforce your precautions, says Senor Silvestre, particularly regarding landslides, which are not as visible as floods and inundations. The land is so soggy and prone to landslides, of course, at the moment. The mass movements are not visible. A slope or wall may seem safe, and in a moment it can collapse, he says. I am warning people who are near these risk zones, the commander stated. Commander Mario Silvestre also urged extra caution to those driving at night. Driving at night is extremely dangerous at the moment, with the risk of flooding exacerbated by poor visibility and the presence of a lot of debris. Power outages, then, regarding the electricity supply in mainland Portugal, a total of 167,000 e-Redes customers were without power. Yes, 167,000 people are still without power. And that's just the ones who've reported it. And that was at 7:30 yesterday evening. Now, we had a couple of flickers. We went off. And this family is conditioned now to not panicking. You know, there's an outage, get the headlamps, light some candles. And we're just conditioned to do that, such is the state of things at the moment. But still, 167,000 people without power still. Storm Master has worsened the power supply situation in Portugal, leaving an additional 100,000 people without electricity between yesterday morning and nighttime. So a further 100,000 were without power yesterday. The rail traffic on the railways now remains suspended. Rail traffic remains suspended on the Linha do Oeste, the Western Line, and urban services in Coimbra. Just a little side note, here in San Martinho de Porto, and I don't know if it's the same along the west coast line, but with the power supply to the level crossings had red lights flashing, obviously urging people conditioned to stop. But there were no trains, as far as I could tell, and it was right to stop when you see a red light. But it's an incorrect red light. Now, please exercise special caution if you're crossing a level crossing. And I noticed as I got closer that the lights had been bagged over, as it were, to obscure them so that people weren't confused by that and stopping unnecessarily, which would be its own risk, especially if there's no train coming. But the wind, of course, had blown one of the bags off on one of the other lights. So be very careful. But the rail traffic remains suspended on the Linha do Oeste and urban services in Coimbra. CP Comboios de Portugal, Portuguese Railways, emphasised this Sunday at around 6:30 a.m. In a statement published on social network Facebook, CP added that circulation is also suspended on the Douro line, but only on the stretch between Régua and Pouquinho. On the Beira-Beja line, passenger service is suspended between Entroncamento and Castelo Branco, the company said. On the other side of the border, the Kelta international train service was suspended by the Spanish operator with no resumption date scheduled, said CP. That's it for the trains there. If you are about to catch a train or want to know what's going on with that, I can put that link into the chat for you to do so. And you'll be able to see for yourself what's going on with updates from CP. This looks like some time ago, but I think maybe this actual thread on their website is being updated as well. It started from the 28th of January, I think, but have a look for yourself on that and see if you can see any useful information if you're particularly interested in rail traffic and disruptions thereof. Back to Safe Communities Portugal reporting the Tejo River. Last night, the flow of the Tejo River was forecast to rise slightly during the night and early morning of Sunday, potentially reaching around 7,500 meters cubed in Almorol. I don't know what that looks like. Let's go with a lot, shall we? After a Saturday with values stabilized at 7,000 meters cubed, warned the Civil Protection of Santarém. It was well, kind of a mixed blessing to see Alcázar de Sal's level dropping and revealing the shop fronts again. But there were people standing inside their shops, pointing above their heads to where the river level had penetrated their buildings and businesses. I saw one baker who she was walking around the bakery, and the tubs that you would normally in those industrial mixers, they were filled with water from the ingress and flooding that had occurred, and the aftermath of it is just absolutely, just in that one little town there, absolutely devastating. So that's the Teja River. Continuing then, based on information released last night by the Portuguese Environment Agency, that's is that ANA? I think, or APA, and APA, the regional subcommand of civil protection of Medio Tejo. A slight increase in the flow rates released by the dams is expected, and consequently an increase in the levels recorded in the Tejo River. Manuel Jorge Valamatos, president of the Santarém District Civil Protection Commission, told Lusa. According to the official, this increase could translate to an increase of 500 meters cubed compared to the values recorded throughout the day, which reflected a period of stabilization of the flows. Thank goodness for that. Public water supply then. Questions about whether to drink tap water at the moment and the public water supply. I would suggest not. The municipality of Batalha informs that after laboratory analyses were carried out and validated, the water from the municipality's public network is in good condition for human consumption. Well, okay. If you wish to, in the municipality of Batalha, you may do so. Nevertheless, the municipality recommends that residents in the areas where there has been interruption in the water supply, or if the water is slightly cloudy, let the tap water run for a few minutes before using it for consumption. I think there's a problem between cross-contamination. I personally would err on the side of caution with tap water. It's good to see it. It's great to have it to better flush things and boil it, perhaps, was the earlier the earlier advice on that. Navy and National Maritime Authority moving to the Navy then, who've been helping out people and rescuing people in dinghies from their homes. The Navy and the National Maritime Authority, AMN, have already assisted more than 3,000 people. Good work. 3,000 people. The Navy inland helping people. 3,000 affected by the bad weather, rescuing 221 so far, according to a report released by the AMN as of today, I think. So far, following the passage of successive storms across the continent, Navy and AMN personnel have covered 3,380 kilometers in reconnaissance operations, and in addition to the 221 people rescued, 42 vessels on the Guadiana River have been assisted. 197 tons of river debris have been removed. Wow. The two entities have also cleared more than 88 kilometers of road and surveyed more than 22 kilometers of the power grid. By boat, presumably. The professionals were also involved in repairing and supporting more than 70 housing and public service infrastructures. Great work, the combined support services of this country. The Gondomar City Council activated the Municipal Civil Protection Emergency Plan on Saturday, not far from Alcázar de Sal, in response to the continued extreme weather conditions and the high risk of flooding in the municipality, the council announced today. Now, these will be highlights of the situation, and other places will have either not reported or it won't have been included in this report. It's still a very serious situation. I think it's fair to say that the most immediate pounding, bashing of the weather has let up a little bit and is giving us a clearer picture now of what's going on as things recede, to reveal the true picture of the situation, which is not pretty. This is a devastation on a national basis, and I continue to repeat and reiterate that this is a national disaster for Portugal. As inventive, innovative, and supportive and community spirited as this wonderful country and its people are, much help is needed here, and this is going to take weeks and months and years in some places to recover from this situation that happened in less than, what we're looking at, 10 days. And specifically in a 48-hour period, which has turned the place upside down. Just a few of the images then. That looks like Alcázar de Sal, the bridge where the Navy Bombeiros combined support services were helping people cross the river, not in the way that they were used to. And look at the force of the water in one of the dams here, the Barajanes being let, and as I reported on somewhat frivolously yesterday, they're having to let the dams, which is a really unusual situation, of course, isn't it? Not used to doing that. Normally have the other problem, the other end of the spectrum of drought. So thank you, Safe Communities Portugal. That's a situation report. They also do a little bit of reporting on historical flooding here in Portugal. And somebody mentioned to me there was a major flood when hundreds of people were killed in 1967, November 25th, which is, of course, a key date, isn't it? That's a particular day in the diary of November 25th here in Portugal. And it's thought that the true death toll at that time in 67, when there were terrible floods, was hushed and suppressed on account of the government in place at the time. So a bit of reporting there. And today in history in Portugal, presidential elections. I think this is a historical day in Portugal when it will be decided whether Seguro or Ventura will be the president. I have my own views on that. I'm sure you do too as well. I mean, let's not get taken over by our own sort of political colours and views on this. I'm going to talk about it more generally. Before we do, thank you to everyone who has delivered donations, bank transfers to help Colmeia Vieira of Leiria. Donations can be delivered to the Associação MVC here in Caldas de Rainha between 10 and 5, Monday to Saturday. Please follow our Facebook page, Associação MVC. Much appreciated. Thank you for your contact yesterday. No problem, Jacqueline. Delighted to be of some assistance in any small way. Bom dia alegria from Pete. Speaking of landslides, data-driven forecast gives Seguro greater than 99% chance of victory, with models estimating a 67 versus 32 split there. On this day in 1291, I remember it well, birth of Afonso, also known as Afonso the Brave, that he would be Afonso IV, who later reigned as King of Portugal from 1325 to 1357. Doug's here as well. Good morning to you, Doug. How's it going with you? We're getting the same advice regarding landslides in Andalusia. I'm due in Granada in 3 days. It's not stopping you getting about, is it, this weather? Rui, don't ruin my day. Give me just 12 hours of idealistic hope and fantasy, okay? I know the day will be ruined in the end, but we're not there yet. Perhaps looking for André Ventura to win. On this day in 46, Portuguese dictator António de Oliveira Salazar formally forbade opposition parties. Wow. This reinforced the authoritarian grip of his Estado Novo regime. I wonder what the rationale would have been at the time. That's a bold dictatorial step. It's one of the great signs of fascism, is it not? Is forbidding opposition publicly as a government. I wonder what, and often, from the point of view of the perpetrator, what would have been the justification at the time? They're just getting in the way, all this opposition and down talking of what we're trying to do. I wonder what was said at the time. It's incredible, isn't it? Gary's power still isn't on. And it makes us. It could make us thankful for the level of democracy we do have, although obviously many of us complain about it. Gary's power still isn't on. His region has been hit really hard, and the winds had powerful gusts again last night. Oh dear, Garvo. What can we do for Garvo? I've got my Bluetti coming, Garvo. If you want to use it on arrival, you're very welcome to, mate. Please check in with Garvo if you can, if you're connected. See what we can do between us. Rui, yes, but Ventura's advance to the runoff is historic and reveals a trend for sure. In 1946, when marked one of many mistakes of Salazar, when facing opposition, you should not ban it. Let them live and shout. Let people have a taste of that if needed. One only properly values the good after having a taste of the any bad. And that's why I don't... Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you, Rui. More fantastic Portuguese humor, the likes of which even us bantering Brits can sometimes go, oh my word, and clutch our pearls. Cheers, Rui. Good to see you here this morning. Reminder to everyone today, it's our presidential election day if you are registered and able to vote. We're ahead of you there, Wendy, but thank you for that reminder there. Let's go back to Facebook and Safe Communities Portugal, who are telling us Portugal presidential election, second round today, February 8th. This is the second time in the country's history that there's been a second round in presidential elections. That's historic then in its own right. And as you say, T-Duck, that Ventura should make it to this stage following the 1986 elections with Mario Soares and Diogo Freitas do Amaral. This time, the election is between candidates André Ventura and Antonio José Seguro. Recent storms led to the postponement of voting to February 15th in several locations. I wonder if that's going to change anything. You would expect, would you not, that they might, on the one hand, hold the result until everything is in, or if it indicates that nothing can be done despite those nearly 37,000 votes, they will call it. Perhaps I suspect it's the latter. The municipalities of Alcocer do Sal, Arruda, dos Vinhos, and Golgão have opted to postpone in all parishes, but in other municipalities, the postponement will be partial. In Santarém, polling station in São Vicente and São Vicente de Paul and the N13 in the city of Santarém are closed. In Rio Maior, there'll be no voting in Alcobertos, and in polling station N11 in Rio Maior, while in Leiria there'll be no voting. In Bidoeira de Cima, in Cartajo, voting will be postponed in Valada, and in Salvaterra de Magos, it will be in the parish of the same name. I hope that made some sense there, as I struggled with the pronunciation. But there we go. The Portuguese election for 2026 is underway, and we will find out what's what, how people are expressing themselves later on this evening. Now, I wonder if there's anything about this, if I put on the screen behind me whilst we have your comments, if I share the rest of your comments as we conclude this morning. No need to stick around unnecessarily, I would suggest. I think I closed down my RTP1, or I went somewhere else with my coverage there. And let me see if I can bring that up in a way that's easy. It isn't always. Oh, well, thank you, RTP1. There was a picture briefly then of a holy man. Perhaps that's what we need right now, a bit of a blessing at the moment. I don't mean to sound in any way cynical. However you're taking your reassurance and peace, for me, certainly this morning, seeing a peace lily in the garden and the power of nature to come through despite the circumstances was really very special. Okay, we've still got adverts there. Free advert for Amigo with their €8 a month. Is that really mobile TV and phone? And just in time for a quick blessing for you there. I'm not sure who this particular holy man is. We're in the Igreja de Nossa Senhora dos Anjos. I can't see it now because of what's on the screen there. San Miguel in the Açores, where we have friends who are sending some video for us tomorrow, I believe. So Father Jose Paulo Machado there in San Miguel in the Açores. And as you might expect, a Catholic service on a Sunday morning here in Portugal, but we're not going to see any presidential analysis, I suspect, there for the time being. Good morning from Patty. Good to see you here, Patty. And here in the UK, people would call me rude, then straight to the HR lady who says, "Ooh, you're so transactional." That's so interesting, isn't it? Because in many ways, it's often been said that that's so not true here in Portugal, where people are relational and not transactional. Were you doubling down on a bit of British transactionality? Okay, interesting. Straight to the HR lady. Was that you going straight to the HR lady? They thought your jokes were so good, Rui, they asked you to repeat them, isn't it? Oh, brilliant. That would, do you know what? Could be its own Netflix series. I'd watch that. I would watch the adventures of a Portuguese man in a British corporation as you struggle to make yourself and your presence heard authentically and truthfully in polite British culture, where a Portuguese person is probably just saying "caralho" or something else like that under their breath. Probably not under their breath, in fact. Okay. Yep. Hey, what's the matter, Roy? Ugh, where do I begin with you people in the UK? Oh, okay, right. So it is the presidential election. From my own point of view and sense of this, as much the world needs more. I, I mean, I get you, T Duck. In a way, I'm a great proponent, fan of Brad Blanton and his book Radical Honesty, where his proposition thesis is that the world is the way it is because people just aren't honest. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. You know, we're not honest with ourselves, let alone anyone else necessarily, and we don't say what we really want to say. What we're struggling with, I think, is not that. That's the easy bit in a way, isn't it? To be able to say what's on your mind bravely. What's not there is the ability to say it in a way that is constructive. We are struggling with those tools at the moment, aren't we? And this presidential election is a sign of that, isn't it? You know, I guess where you can't speak freely and openly, you wait for the secrecy of the ballot box and inflict a result on your fellow people who you would like to give them a piece of your mind. And it tells you something, doesn't it? They're here and all over the world. If the only time you get to do that, the only time you really feel like you're making your feelings felt, and it is the ballot box a place for feelings? You know, you might argue that it's a place for rationality. Who of these candidates can give the best service on a very rational and scientific basis? You know, for me, I would err on the side of rationalism here. It's a good case for rationalism, to be rational when voting. But it would appear that what we have all over the world is, in the absence of being able to be honest and straight with each other in a constructive way, because we're not seeing a lot of that. I think we have moved on a lot, and people are being very outspoken on what they might be called radically honest. But what's not happening is the context in which that can be heard and managed very well. So what we're getting is not a growth of understanding. We're getting a growth of polarity and separation between people, which I don't think is in any way constructive. And that's my concern about the election here in Portugal, is in terms of political temperature and emotions, and where the country is right now, reeling from a national disaster. That outpouring through the ballot box of a Chega representative will be pretty devastating if for that to be the outcome, as is happening all over the world and has been happening all over the world for a very long time. And more, we don't like it up us so much in our part of the world, where it seems to be happening, you know, what's loosely referred to, or directly, but at the same time loosely referred to as populism, because we're also at the same time saying so much with so few words, and we're not explaining ourselves necessarily, are we? It's like fascist, far right, blah blah, you're this, you're that, left, right, blue, red. It's like these labels do not serve us, when all they are is a push button for us to confirm what we're already thinking, feeling, and are butt hurt about, and just want to push back, fight back, and hurt other people with name calling. I think that's where we're at, honestly, on a widespread scale. And what I hope for is in no way people not being able to speak or express themselves or choose whichever party they want to, but a broadening of the conversational context as to why. It would appear, it's very interesting to me anyway, that we have a old school socialist candidate who looks like he might win according to the polls, and we know what that means. Polls have not been very accurate, have they, around the world? And the sentiment that, oh, that could never happen here, hasn't been very accurate either. And it's not beyond, I don't think it's beyond the realms of so-called reality that there may well be a Chega president in this country later on today. Who knows what might happen? I don't know enough about how this system works and how relevant polls are to make the call. But judging by other situations around the world, when people say that couldn't happen, and this is what the polls say, that isn't always how it turns out. And I just think, you know, as a foreigner looking in, I'm not sure the country needs that level of that temperature rise, that emotional temperature rise. And with this, I do, you know, on the one hand, I really sympathize, understand, and I am one of those people who doesn't feel represented by the ballot box, and democracy such as we have it. And at the same time, obviously, from some of the comments that were made earlier on this morning and reported, it is relatively a lot better in so many ways. Of course it is. And yet, is it as good as it could be? No, I don't think so. And we are using systems that are beneath us and are ripe for renewal, which is what a lot of this devastation politically and disturbance is all about, I think. And when we're calling on the one hand for radical honesty, and the only method people feel they have to speak freely is secretly in a ballot box and inflict their pent-up emotional feelings on other people, which is what I think happens now in politics and has been for a long time, despite the mantle and pretense of rationality. It is where we are unresolved and emotional and just triggered on a very low level all the time. One outlet for that is politics, and I think it's the wrong place when we're deciding on public servants. As much as possible, can we keep the emotions out of that? Apparently not, all over the world. Anyway, let me just see what your response might be to that. I haven't been called far right for a long time. Not that I want that, but it happens, especially when I speak openly in the way that I do, sometimes, occasionally. Yes, as you may know, if you watch regularly, I again made my comments about the Epstein files just recently on this channel, but making it clear that I was distancing it from being a Portuguese message in any way. It was very personal. And occasionally when that happens, I do lose a few friends. So-called a real blessing would be the ECB doing a bit of QE. Yeah, I agree with this, and dropping liquidity grants to people and builders to repair roofs, houses, etc. Let's call Madame Lagarde La Dominatrix. Do it to us bad and dirty. Drop money on us. We'll strip off while you throw those dollars at us. La Dominatrix, Madame Lagarde. Wow, you took me down a very dark road there, Rui. Hiya, guys. Here for a short while. You're here for a short time, you're here for a good time, not a long time. Okay, that's what Andy says, isn't it? I'm here for a short while waiting for the engineer. Hope all well. Okay. Good. I won't tell you what came to mind from that comment, Welsh Jackie. It's Rui's fault again. Good morning. 18 mil overnight. Who doesn't like 18 millimeters overnight? No one at the moment in Portugal. Portugal needs a change. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, I think you need a change. I'm going to push you in a ditch. There you go. There's a change for you. I'm going to push you over. You needed a change. I am so fascist and far right that I'm a huge fan of former Greek. Isn't he the exception that proves the rule? I love saying his name publicly as well. Varoufakis. I'm so fascist and far right. I'm a huge fan. I love our conversations, Roy, I have to say. We have sun. If I had a hallelujah chorus button, I'd push it right now. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if people notice, but this is not about left or right polarization anymore. This is about kicking the system. Yes, it is. However, it finds its expression, does it not, in a traditionally left-right polarized, increasingly polarized system. And so it's that phrase that comes to mind when all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We're bringing a hammer to a situation that needs a spanner, aren't we? And to mix the metaphor, what's needed is a spanner in the works, definitely. I would say, but for goodness sake, for the love of all that's good and holy, not violent, aggressive change, but steady transition. If us human beings are capable of that, which when you look around the world, we don't often seem to be. And this is going back to the blunt honesty thing, isn't it? We don't like it up us, and I suppose our capacity, I suppose, healthy, functional dishing out of honesty matches the amount of which we're able to absorb ourselves, doesn't it? And we see that doesn't work very well with politics, does it? When people have a political conversation, you soon get to see, well, I get to see how hurt they are about things and how that's covered up and then expressed as a political belief. I find that endlessly fascinating. I really do. It's about wealth transfer from the people to the elites and the nations, which is something all the little people can agree on, surely. And then they go back to their parties, don't they? And it's like Stockholm syndrome. I prefer these sorts of abusers. rather than these other sorts who really aren't sorting the system out. What I find amazing is the aggression from the left, and I think it works. It's called mirroring and projection, isn't it? It works on both sides. But yes, there is a certain kind of left viciousness, as there is a certain kind of right viciousness. Again, characterizations, I think, based on psychology and healing. When nothing works and nothing is certain, it's all a gamble. Why not give Ventura a go for 1 or 2 mandates? Then if it doesn't work, we vote him out. There's your democracy right there. And if we and yeah, fair enough. But what we're seeing, I think, is not what happens necessarily in Parliament and in the constitutional heights, but what we see is an ennobling, certainly not an ennobling, an enabling of other things. And we see this with the left and the right, don't we? We see that when a mandate on a acceptable level is achieved, that gives vent to the extremes of that particular ideology. And again, it works on the left and the right, as we've seen in the last few years. And if we vote him out, he will be out the easy way or the hard way. We did it once. We can do it again. Thank you so much, Rui, for that. Just to reiterate, there's a very serious situation ongoing, a national natural disaster in this country at the moment, where we can't afford to be complacent. I hope that we remain compassionate and helpful towards each other and cooperative on that level. It shows what people are capable of when it's not obviously political, doesn't it? The amount of compassion and cooperation that's been occurring in this country is so beautiful to see, and gives you hope and a warm feeling about humanity. And that old sort of cliche is like, why does it take this for that to not be the standard operating procedure of people? And why do we default so easily, it seems sometimes, to the viciousness and nastiness and idiocy that the political realm offers people? It's very interesting. It's work in progress, is it not? So I do want to reiterate that we have a presidential election, and it perhaps in many ways is a lot about the least of us, isn't it, rather than the best, or the worst of us rather than the best of us, which we have seen come to the fore because of the natural disaster that's occurred. People say that Ventura is anti-democratic, but to prove that, we need to vote him in and then vote him out, and only then we find out. Wow, Roy, thank you so much for popping in this morning. Do take care, everybody. Let's keep this an open place for conversation and cooperation and open-mindedness and open-heartedness, and sending you, however these situations have affected you, sending you love and best wishes and good luck. We need... Okay, there it goes. You need your own channel, Rui, with such pearls and chestnuts. Pearls and chestnuts. If you want to call your autobiography that, you're very welcome. Have that one on me. Fica bem, fica junto, wherever possible. Take care. Bye for now. We'll see you again in the morning. Bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to